Morning, this is Peasant. I just want to talk about risk today. I just want to talk about risk and how much dollar amount per trade you should have. Ideally, we want risk per trade to be the variance between risk per trades should be very small. I say this because you don't want to. I don't want to be risking $2,000 a trade and then $90,000 on one trade, and then back to $2,000 a trade, because this gives you, if you're trading a system, this gives you really way too much weight on one single trade to make or break your account value growth. You know, your account value growth or decline, whatever your chart is on your account. Obviously, we want the bottom line to go up, but you have so much weight on one trade, and you need to diversify. It's good to diversify amongst trade. I mean, most trades are worth $2,000. You don't have to have one that's worth so much or so little. You know, if it's $500, it doesn't really matter much. So the idea is to have risk per trade. That variance is small. You want to keep it tight, and we want to keep it tight because we don't know if one trade is going to work or not. There's a probability attached to it. You can have the risk reward tight, meaning like it's a 0.5 to 1. Like one, you're risking $100, you're making $50 in proportion. You could be doing that, and it has a high win rate innately. But even if you do have that, you still you don't want to risk so much on one trade, because then it's I don't know how to say this. I mean, why don't you want to risk so much on one trade or so little? It's because you don't know what's going to happen to that trade. So if you risk 90,000 or whatever, even if you do it small, your risk is normal is 2,000, and then you risk 11 grand. This is still, it's not 90 grand, but it's still 11 grand. It's still on the spectrum, and it's still directionally further away from what your risk is supposed to be. And this is not risk management. I'm just talking about why. Why is it best to keep your trades risking the same amount? It's because that 11 grand trade could lose. And you don't know if it could lose or win, because you have a probability, but you still don't know. So why is it so much risk? It goes against what we're trying to do in trading. Trading is, you have, over a series of trades, you win. You know, it goes back to the expectancy equation. You, over a series of trades, you win $35 a trade, you know, over a series of trades. So if you have one trade that's a monster, you know, you don't know it. I mean, it's going to be dependent. Your trading account is going to be dependent on one trade, and that goes against what we're trying to do. It goes against what trading is. Trading is a series of trades. It's a system over a series of trades. You have an expectancy for a reason. Expectancy equation says you're risking $100, your reward is $200. Okay? You're expected $35 per trade with a 45% win rate. You're expected $35 per trade. You're not making $35 in one trade. You're making $200, but you have multiple trades that are losers of $100. So on average, that trend line is $35 positive. It messes that expectancy equation up entirely if you have a huge trade, way more than the risk, or way less than the risk, like $10 or something, like ridiculous. Like that's not even comparable anymore. And we don't want it just so the reason why we need to understand why is because when trading gets hot and heavy, we are tested in what we're going to do, what rules are we going to follow, everything. If we have something we know is right, but we don't actually know why, we just know that we should risk small, like we don't really know why, we're going to be like, fuck it, because I'm going to send this because that's what I want to do. I'm going to send a big order. You need to know why. Why is this rule in place? And the why to having risk per trade in a small parameter, small boundaries, is because You don't know if the big trade is going to win or lose. If it loses, it's going to affect all your other trades way more. It affects your account way, way more than all the other trades. What makes this one so special? All trades shouldn't be so special. Obviously, you are confident when you're placing a trade. Everybody's really confident in this trade when it's going. I see a good trade. I'm in it. Like, that's why what happened in the past, I'm always like all in on this one trade because I'm so confident in it. We should trade confidently, but we have to understand, we have to have rational in our mind, a rational person like a CFO saying, "Hey, I know you're confident, bro. And that's what we need to trade." But you have to understand that there's a probability against you as well. There could be a probability. It's a chance still. So if you have a huge weighted trade, it's not going to work out. It can work out, but it's really it dwarfs all the other trades, and it's no longer a trading system anymore. It's no longer over a series of trades. It's over one trade because you have one trade that is heavier than everything, all the other trades, you know. So that's why you want to keep the risk per trade boundaries close. You want to keep them tight. You can have a boundary. You can have a little spectrum in there if you have more confidence than others. There's some trades that you have more confidence than other trades, and maybe higher win rates statistically in your back test, or all of it. So you can risk a variable amount per trade. That's fine, but you have to keep it within reason. And reason it's determined by your expectancy and your confidence per trade and your back testing. But essentially, you want to keep it somewhat tight. You don't want to have something so far outlier that messes up what you're trying to do here, because trading is over a series of trades, and that's important.